Brady and Baker. And, the quote-unquote controversy that Baker, started by saying that it just wasn't fun whenever Tom was here. I'm hoping to bring the fun back, get rid of the stress. And, this was – Tom Brady could have reacted to this as the story came out. But he didn't. He waited until it was his turn, live on Fox as they were calling the game.
Our guy here said, quote, "They wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football for guys who weren't having as much fun." It's funny because you've made this environment for me very stressful up here in the booth, so I understand where he's coming from.
Do you feel it?
No.
Feel the stress? No. Well, I was going to say, I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings. So there was a mindset of a champion that I took to work every day. This wasn't daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I was going to go to Disneyland with my kids.
Yeah, so as you were saying, go ahead. That's you feel like I feel like there's more in there to say.
There's a way to approach this game, and it's that with the right mindset and try to push each other outside of our comfort zone. And great teammates do that. You come in, I have someone like Gronkowski, I have someone like Evans. There's high expectations for us. We got to make sure we go out there and deliver.
The competitive juice is still flowing,
still in there.
I love it.
No apologies.
Not just competitive juices. The championship pedigree is still there for Tom Brady. And here's the difference between expectation and mentality. Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady spoke pregame on the field. Tom was down there talking with all his former teammates there in Tampa. And then Baker Mayfield was asked about it postgame after the Buccaneers beat the Eagles.
I think a lot of that got taken out of context, and none of it was personal by any means. It's just, what he demanded of the guys, and that's the aura of Tom Brady, and that's what he did to bring a championship here. And so, nothing personal, but talking before the game, he's obviously happy for me. He knows the guys, so he knows how much I enjoy throwing to Mike and Chris because he got to do the same. And so it's fun to be able to, talk about the same experience with a guy like that.
And we heard his competitive fire a little bit too on the broadcast when he said, well, this wasn't the daycare.
Yeah, no. I mean, like I said, a lot of things got taken out of context. He did it his own way, and that's why he has 7 rings. So, not much else needs to be said.
There's an expectation with Tom Brady to win a title. I don't hear anyone talking about the Buccaneers going to win the championship this year. Maybe they end up doing it, but there's no expectation for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl. That's the difference between having Tom Brady on your roster and him being, excuse me, choking me up, and him being your leader versus having Baker, who's a great story, just signed a long-term deal to stay in Tampa. And, he's leading them to wins, but is he going to lead them to championships? Chad, how many quarterbacks today in the league have the mentality of what Brady was talking about, even on the broadcast?
Not many, because
2 or 3?
Not many also have won as many titles, as Tom Brady. So,
but even
it's
if you
tough
won
to even
one,
put it into context, the difference between the two. So look, the definition of stress that Tom Brady has versus what Baker Mayfield has, and that Bucs roster is very, very different. I love how Tom Brady phrased that. By the way, this is the most meaningful thing Tom Brady said on a broadcast so far this year. So hats off to him for responding to this in an honest way. I want more honesty like this from Tom Brady over the course of a broadcast and get into more things like this. I know he's not sitting at a desk in a pregame show or anything like that. His job is to call the game, and I think he's doing a good job of helping call the game alongside Kevin Burkhardt. But this is the first newsworthy thing that's happened that he has said. And it's a different definition of stress and how they would define it. Tom Brady says it himself. It's stressful to me not winning Super Bowl rings. That's stressful. So I don't know what stress is other than that. I don't know what stress Baker Mayfield is talking about inheriting, because they were pretty closely removed to winning a Super Bowl in Tampa. And that's the goal. This isn't a daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I'd take my kids to Disneyland. I love everything Tom Brady had to say. Those are the glimpses of the great Tom Brady that you're going to catch every now and again on these broadcasts. And I thought it was a very genuine and awesome moment for him and to talk about this and Baker Mayfield. And no disrespect to Baker Mayfield.
No.
Who's doing a great job. And he's just a different dude. And but you could say that about all 32 quarterbacks currently in the NFL. They're different dudes. Maybe Aaron Rodgers possesses some of that, but Aaron Rodgers has won 1 Super Bowl over the course of his career. He's not Tom Brady. There's just not many guys wired like Brady that's going to demand excellence like that. Steve Kerr talked a lot about this with Michael Jordan, said it took him a couple years or at least a full season to get comfortable playing with the demands of Michael Jordan because you feel the pressure from him more than anyone else when you're a teammate of Michael Jordan's. And he finally got comfortable enough to, in 1996, knock down the jump shot that won the title for the Bulls. Well, I'm sure it's an uncomfortable spot to be in the crosshairs of Tom Brady screaming at you as a teammate or mad at you about whatever he's mad at you about. And I'm sure that was stressful to some Bucs teammates. But again, the definition of stress very different from Baker Mayfield to Tom Brady.
No doubt. No doubt. And, you know, there is a need to not feel that stress by many players. And I'm just talking about not just the NFL, right? But, man, I miss the mentality of we're here not just to win a game. We're here to win a title. This week, Chad, the Bears have won games where Caleb Williams passed for just 93 yards and 157 yards. You have Bo Nix, who became the first NFL quarterback in the history of the league to throw for 60 yards or less on at least 25 pass attempts in a win. You've got the Eagles offense. The Eagles offense. They've been broken without A.J. Brown in the lineup. Just 2 completions where passes traveled more than 20 yards in the air. And through 4 games, only 3 teams have passed for 1,000 yards this season. Last year, the number was 7. You know, there's just a different vibe to quarterback play right now. And I'm not saying it all left when Brady left, because you still have Mahomes. But Mahomes is on the mantle, and I don't see that same vibe of the next quarterback trying to catch him. Do you feel that at all?
No, I mean, it's Mahomes, but I'm talking more mindset with this.
But the
even
mindset
Mahomes,
was, you still had Manning. You still had,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I would not compare the Mahomes mindset, even though he may end up being greater than Brady when all's said and done. I don't think the Mahomes mindset is similar to Tom Brady's.
But he would never say, yeah, we're here. We're not trying to, I'm trying to create joy.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think there's more joy in Mahomes.
Yeah, but I'm saying
plays.
It's not like a lack of stress. You know,
right.
They immediately talked about the three-peat. I love that.
It's such a different, like the perception of, you can't ask a meerkat to be a tiger, right? Like, it's inherent in you. There is an animal kingdom out there, and not everyone is wired like Tom Brady. And Tom Brady probably can't understand how everyone's not wired like him.
But it's not the
individual.
individual.
How can everyone not hate losing the same way I do?
It's more about the group than the individual, though. Baker's speaking on behalf of what was versus what is. Not, I have a different mentality than Brady. It's the vibe I have received since I've been here is they appreciate the fact that they can walk around and they're not on eggshells. And it's like, hang on, you want a title with this dude?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think both things are true.
But you're just winning games right now with Baker.
Right. You're going to look back and say, well, that was pretty good. Those eggshells taste pretty good now because you won a Super Bowl because of those eggshells you walked around on. I mean, I think all these things are true. It is stressful to play with Tom Brady, I'm sure. If you screw up once, he may look away from you. I'm sure that's a stressful thing. Tom Brady also is such a demanding presence as a competitor that he, in part, wills his teammates to get better, wills the offense to get better as a unit, and wills his teams to Super Bowls. And that's not a bad thing. It's also, Mahomes is a great example. On the flip side of this, I don't see Mahomes as some guy who's cracking the whip on everyone and not fun to be around. His greatness is undisputed. It's undisputed. His championship pedigree as a competitor, undisputed right now. He's going for a three-peat. No one's denying that. And I think it's probably a little bit more fun to play for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, the combination of two. So let's also keep in mind where Brady learned how to win championships in New England for the king of no fun, for the king of this isn't a daycare that I'm running. Bill Belichick.
But Belichick learned how to win championships with Brady. That's the other part.
Both. I mean, and so they both learned that culture together.
Andy Reid and Mahomes are very similar in that. But I'm just saying, with Brady, you at least had other quarterbacks.
Yeah, but don't you think
that demanded the same greatness?
Don't you think Andy Reid and Mahomes are a little bit more fun than Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? In their culture to be around.
Kareem Hunt.
I mean, they're doing like the fire drill, plays, circles and stuff.
No doubt.
They work on their own play in practice.
No doubt, for sure. But like you still have at least for a season, Antonio Brown went to Tampa and behaved. After leaving Pittsburgh and not being able to hold it together in other stops. You can have Kareem Hunt go back. Speaking of joy, he's loving it going back to Kansas City. Where things started, but things went awry after. He's loving the fact that he's back there, where he got his career back on track. There are other examples there. I don't know if I'm just looking for 2 or 3 more, and I don't see that same with Brady. You had Manning, Roethlisberger to some extent, but on the flip side of things, I don't know if this quarterback era, if anyone's going to jump up and grab the brass ring, as McMahon would say back in the day.
Yeah, and I wonder.
They can't get past him.
I also wonder how many. I do think about Brady, and are we seeing sort of a relic of the past? And I'm talking about like the dictator quarterback, afraid to say the wrong thing around him. Oh. The guy that will yell at you, will yell at the offensive coordinator. The vibes are very different in today's NFL. I'm not saying these guys aren't diehard competitors or any of that. But I just don't know if that resonates the same way as it did back. And even Peyton Manning, go back and watch Peyton Manning screaming at Jeff Saturday on NFL films. Like, as demanding as Tom Brady was, I just think guys are cut from a different cloth of this generation in terms of how they get along with people.
Yes.
And it's not as much get in your face and scream at you as maybe it was in Tom Brady's heyday. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we see someone who's exactly like Brady come along when it comes to being that demanding.
Maybe that's what's up with Rodgers. They much more pedestrian yesterday with the rain. The issues there are real.
When they didn't gain anything and you knew it was going to be a 50-yard attempt to win it, I was like, this is missed. In the rain, this is missed. That they needed about 10 or 15 more yards to feel comfortable, and about 5 more yards the way that thing was pushed would have been a made field goal.
Quite the atmosphere in Tuscaloosa. It was awesome at Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Clay was there. He was there on behalf of Big Noon Kickoff, and of course there for the exclusive interview with President Trump, where, speaking of Tom Brady, here's President Trump speaking with Clay about the GOAT.
Tom Brady's a friend of yours. He's calling games for Fox Sports now. How do you think he's done in the booth?
I think he's done really well, and I think he's going to do well, and he's a winner, and he's a champion, and has a lot of people that are jealous of him, so they're always going to say, no matter how well he does, they'll say as negative as they can, but I think he's doing fantastically well.
There's the interview that took place at halftime. You could hear the band on the field.
Herschel Walker very into the interview the entire time, too,
yes,
right there in the middle.
He was. Clay's pocket square is on point.
At that point, a 30-7 lead for his Georgia Bulldogs also. Very into that point as well, Herschel Walker. More
from Trump and Clay on the state of college football right now.
You came here in 2019. You saw Joe Burrow, Tua. It was an incredible game. For someone who has never been to a big college football game, Alabama, all over the SEC, what are they missing? What's incredible about it?
Well, I've always heard the expression big-time college football. And I guess, NFL is great, but we have 125,000 people today. You have Herschel standing right behind. You talk about, they did ballads to Herschel, the ballad of Herschel. Yes. Nobody like Herschel. But big-time college football is as big as the NFL. I mean, some people want to watch that as opposed to the NFL. And I don't know what they're doing with the kickoff return in the NFL.
It's a mess.
And I don't want to get involved in controversy, of course, but it looks so bad. And I noticed they haven't done that in college, and they shouldn't do it. And I think the NFL should go back. I mean, maybe it's a little more dangerous. I doubt it's any more dangerous. It is, it's football. I think they made a terrible mistake in doing that. But you look at this, they haven't. It was the first thing I was looking at. I said, have they done it? They haven't. It looks so strange. And you don't take something that's working and change it. But this is really big-time football, and it's great to see.
The full interview available, OutKick.com. If you haven't seen it already, you can certainly find it on social as well. Follow OutKick or Clay. It was well done. And it's got to be cool. I can't wait to talk with Clay on Wednesday about this. Like, knowing we've made that walk to the other side of the stadium where they were. The home side, I believe, of Bryant-Denny Stadium. And there's like a corridor you go through. There's like a little bridge you go over. Clay's making that walk. And the security, I can't wait to see hear about the behind-the-scenes aspect of all of it.
Yeah, hopefully security has improved for
Clearly.
Donald Trump also. Looking at the waits to get into the stadium, I know which were an issue for a lot of people. I think that the Secret Service has improved their game a bit when it comes to security, which is a good sign.
Yes.
Because we don't want anything happening to anyone.
The kickoff, by the way, the NFL will be changing that. They'll be making different rules. They'll move the ball up to the 35, doing something.
It's very, very I liked it at first because, this is interesting. And the longer it goes on, it's very off-putting to watch. There's just something about it that seems so unnatural to the game of football, the way everybody just stands and waits as the ball hovers over their head. It's just, it's off.
I think with the intent it was, we're trying to have more returns but keep it safer, right?
Yeah.
And
I like the attempt.
Teams are still we'll take the touchback, take it at the 30, and with the defenses dominating the way they are right now on the scoreboard, scoring's down like 7 to 9 points per game at this time last year.
I like the effort. I like the attempt to make anything better.
Yes.
It reminds me, though, this is where I mean it's unnatural. When you play like flag football in college, you can't rush the passer for like 3 seconds or whatever.
One Mississippi, two Mississippi.
Sometimes they have like a ref who will be there and will put the hand down when you can rush.
Yeah.
So you got guys just standing there on the line as the play's happening, and they're like shadowing the quarterback. That's what it feels like because the ball is in play. It's been kicked, and you have two teams staring at each other, not moving while the ball is in air. So any delay in movement while the ball is in play, very, very unnatural to the game of football.
And it takes away the surprise onside kick, which you still have in college.
Right.
Josh Heupel can do that against Kent State if he wants.
Got to see an onside kick yesterday, yes. Got to see an onside kick, which supposedly that was just the player's call. Like, there's no one over there, so we'll do it. I'm like, okay, well, you probably should call that off at some point and say, let's not do it. Green Bay, at the end of the game, you had the drop kick.
Games. Yes.
Drop kick, onside kick, which was fun to watch.
You have to declare it.
That was not close to being recovered by Green Bay.
Don't even practice
it's
that
anymore.
anymore.
It's the most eventful play in football.
I love it. Yeah.
And it can be the most, here we go, when everyone's run into it. But then sometimes it's also the most anticlimactic when it's just immediately caught by the team that's receiving it. It's like, okay, it's over.
It's like taking out the Hail Mary.
Yeah. Can't take out the Hail Mary.
Even if it's a touchdown that's called out of bounds. What do you think of this?
I saw one of the...
I thought he had the football.
Oh, my gosh. He
thought he had the football for Virginia Tech.
I thought Virginia Tech got absolutely screwed in that deal. And bring on the conspiracy theories. I'm sorry. But when Miami is your best shot and you feel that way about going undefeated as an ACC champion and you're highly ranked and it's at home, like... You take that long to look at. I didn't like anything about it. I thought Virginia Tech won that game.
So you call it a touchdown so you can review it, right? If you're the official.
Well, and there's a lot of people saying originally it was Miami running off the field with the ball.
Right.
But I'm thinking that's not how it's played.
Right.
It's who comes down with it. I can go and rip the ball out of the guy's hand. Oh, look, it's my ball. I caught it.
Yes.
And all of that. I thought it was a touchdown for Virginia Tech.
That's right. And what are we taught? The tie goes to who?
Tie goes to the offense.
Yes.
And that was a great attempt at a Hail Mary. We saw an even better one the week before from Shedeur Sanders in Colorado. One of the worst attempts at a Hail Mary was Peyton Thorne and Auburn at the end of that game, where I'm watching it and I'm saying there is no way this guy's reaching the end zone because it was like a 65 or 70-yard throw. And sure enough, he was a good 15 to 20 yards short of the end zone when he rolled out and attempted the Hail Mary. But I'm thinking he is not getting the ball all the way there.
It makes me
not exactly a big-armed quarterback.
I appreciate those quarterbacks that could get it there more when you see some of the 4- and 5-star quarterbacks that can't make that throw. And then you see these rockets.
It's always, to me, you're pleasantly surprised by almost every quarterback that looks like they can kind of effortlessly get it into the vicinity. Or even sometimes throw it a little deep out of the end zone with the adrenaline going. that it's startling when you see a guy fall 15, 20 yards short the way Peyton Thorne did.
And try to get it there.
I feel awful for that guy, by the way. The way the week went and Hugh Freeze calling out the quarterbacks, and then to have really what I thought was a pretty perfect game plan for Auburn, just to not throw the ball away to Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's it. Just don't give the game
and
away.
Just let the freshman quarterback take his lumps on the road for Oklahoma in the first game he's played, to then lose it on a 63-yard pick six.
Yeah.
I felt terrible for Peyton Thorne and Auburn. Big win for Oklahoma on the road, though.
How about Bama and Georgia? This game gets away at halftime, and I'm thinking, what a performance by Bama. It's a lot about Bama, but it's, okay, what about Georgia? And for the first time, I sent a text to a buddy, and I said, we're going to find out what Kirby Smart does at halftime and how he approaches this game. And I learned a lot about Georgia in this, too. Chad, I don't know about you, but, you've got Bama winning. Georgia comes from behind, takes the lead, 34-33. I'm thinking they're celebrating on the sideline, I would be, too. I'd be talking all kinds of trash after hearing what I've heard all game behind me from the Bama fans, if I'm Georgia. But to take the lead after all that, there are games where you feel like both teams can take something away regardless of result. As a football fan, but didn't care, just from a fan perspective, didn't care who won or lost. I cared about that from, the online wagering perspective.
Yep.
I see both teams as legit contenders, despite what I saw Bama do to Georgia in the first half, because of the way the Georgia Bull. I don't know how many programs respond that way in that stadium against that team. And Georgia did. Very few programs could do it. And, Chad, it's probably 2 or 3 programs in the SEC, and that's it.
If that. I have a hard time.
I think
Texas,
Bama could do it.
Texas could do it.
Tennessee could do it.
I think Georgia could do it. I think this year Tennessee could do it.
Yes. That's what
I wouldn't even put Tennessee consistently. Like, if programs that I'm looking at that consistently have the horses to pull something like that off in a hostile environment, to play terrible for a half and still come back and be right there in it against great competition on the road.
Georgia does that the others, and no one.
It's a small company of teams. This year, I think you're right. There's 4.
This year.
Knock Ole Miss off the list after that performance.
Agreed.
That was not good for Ole Miss in that game. A huge win for Mark Stoops in Kentucky and a great defensive effort.
Yes.
And they had a great defensive effort against Georgia.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Yes,
I learned a lot about Georgia despite what I watched.
What I saw from Alabama, I thought was a masterful coaching performance by Kalen DeBoer. Masterful plan, mix and matching things offensively, really flex the muscle that he showed at Fresno State, at Washington with that offense. Some of those splash plays in the passing game pulled straight from the playbook of Michael Penix Jr. to Rome Odunze from a year ago. Brilliant coaching job. What I saw from Georgia was a bunch of dudes that just decided, hey, this is stupid. They're playing press man coverage. Let's just back shoulder them to death when they're not turning to see the football. And they started doing it in the second half. I don't think anything that Carson Beck did was phenomenal. I think it was terrible in the first half. I think I've seen ghosts as that game was going on. But he was putting the ball in a position where Dylan Bell and some of his, Dominic Lovett, some of his big-time playmakers could go make a play.
Speaking of throwing bombs, he can do that.
He can. And good job across the middle when they needed on some big 3rd and 4th downs. Throwing strikes. But outside of that, it's just back shoulder throws, throwing it deep, man-to-man coverage. Alabama's always had that ability to press up with man coverage because they have great corners. And finally, the freshman decided, hey, Kalen DeBoer said it postgame, he's a smart kid who wised up that, hey, I need to turn and see the ball quicker because they're just throwing it up for grabs and I'm not seeing it. He turns the right time, gets the interception. I leave that game not thinking any worse of Georgia, but thinking better about Alabama. But, Hutton, if that thing would have continued the way it was in the first half, my thought coming out of that game is no way Georgia's going to go to the playoffs and survive this road schedule. Now, the road schedule looks a little bit better when Ole Miss lays an egg at home.
How many teams could do that to Georgia?
But
that's what I'm saying, because we haven't seen
less than a month from now, Georgia's going to go to Texas, right? They got the trip to Ole Miss. They still have Tennessee at home. It's going to get hairy for a lot of SEC teams coming up with some road challenges. And we've seen games that don't look on paper like it's going to be a great road challenge can be difficult. In Ole Miss's case, that's a home game that they're a 20-point favorite in, and they lose.
And we've seen Bama have really, really big time issues with penalties, flags, self-inflicted problems. That's not just like erased. That's happened already this year. That can also creep back up. But it's the fact that Bama did this to Georgia. Georgia, 48-0 against NCAA opponents, anyone, in the last 52 games, 48-0. 1-3 against Alabama. So it's like Bama can do that. How many others? I think the takeaway at halftime, everybody's like, "Oh, Georgia's done." Look at I'm like, to me, it's more about Alabama than Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. He came to play, man. That we've been to that stadium several times. I don't know if if I was there, I think that would be, bar none, the pinnacle of atmosphere.
Well, and it was the pinnacle of WTF when Georgia took the lead late. And the stunned faces of that entire crowd,
crying.
They lost a 28-0 lead, was shocking to see. That was mind-blowing, that comeback from Georgia. So full marks to them. Big takeaway on Bama. I mean, the rest of the conference has to be in pure agony after watching what Kalen DeBoer has inherited and what he immediately not just does with them, but builds upon what Nick Saban did. I think offensively, they're building on what he inherited from Nick Saban. Is it going to last as long as Nick Saban? Probably not. Is he going to win as many national titles? I'd be willing to say no. But damn it, if you're in the rest of college football right now, you got to be looking at that and saying that's almost too good to be true.
Are they about to build a statue for him?
That they hired Kalen DeBoer. By the way, final two guys for that job, Kalen DeBoer and Mike Norvell. How you feeling right now if you're an Alabama fan for making the choice of DeBoer over Norvell, who's getting his ass kicked by SMU in their first year in the ACC? By the way, an ass kicking at the hands of SMU, that wasn't surprising. Who would have thought that a 42 or 41-16 loss
a month into the season
would not feel surprising at all for FSU?
Not surprising either, Chad. Faking injuries. Saw it in the Ole Miss game. We just mentioned this game. Kiffin, he's had his team practice this for a while. And everyone is doing this in some shape, form, or fashion. But what did we not see in the game of the week?
We didn't see any faking injuries in Georgia, Alabama, or at least not a lot, because that game didn't need any of that. What we did see in the Ole Miss-Kentucky game was more of the same from both Ole Miss and Kentucky. And there was a moment in that game where Matt Jones, running back for Kentucky, looks to the sideline, and in slow-mo, they're playing it back, just looks to the sideline, and then looks like the sniper hit him in the Achilles.
And Dart's trying to tell him to do it.
And hits the deck. Yeah, sorry, Matt Jones of Ole Miss, not Kentucky. And then Dart's telling him to get down, and he gets down, right?
The flea probably
Sean
did.
Sean McDonough. When I hear Matt Jones, I think Kentucky for whatever reason. I'm sure that this has pissed off coaches for a while. If you're running a high-tempo offense or you think you got some rhythm going, and then someone's going to hit the deck with a fake injury. Kirk Herbstreit a week ago in the Tennessee-Oklahoma game said, there's not a rule against it, but, quote, it's unethical as hell. Kirk Herbstreit, credit to him, because I think he unleashed the floodgates on criticism now from major announcers, because Sean McDonough was all over it, exaggerating. Boy, I really hope that he survives this horrific injury that he just took in this game when he hit the deck, because watch what happens here. The more announcers in these big national games that step up and speak up against this, college football will take notice.
They're showing it too.
They're showing it more and more. They're making fun of it. And if you're ridiculed enough by announcers, because there was this kind of unspoken gentleman's agreement for a while. Hey, if a kid says he's hurt, don't act like he's not hurt, because maybe he really is hurt. And you're going to look like an asshole if the kid's actually hurt now for some time because you called him out for a fake injury. Now announcers are saying, I don't care. I'm going to call it out when I see it. Kirk Herbstreit started. Sean McDonough follows. I hope more announcers, the ESPN, Fox, NBC, Peacock, wherever these games are being called, I hope we see more announcers calling this out, because the more people who speak up against it, the more likely the NCAA in college football is to put a rule in that prevents it or at least slows it down. Take 3 plays off. If you stop the game because of injury, you're out 3 plays, you're out 5 plays, whatever. You're out that series. I don't care the amount of time. There has to be some sort of restriction. If you stop play because you're on the ground and you need to be attended to, there needs to be the equivalent of a penalty box on the sideline. And someone comes over, you take your helmet off, you put it down with the substitute official, they put a little yellow hat on you or whatever, and you're not able to go back in the game until they take that yellow hat off of you, and you go back to your coaches and you're cleared to play medically and by rule. It's a very simple fix to me. And I really hope college football does something about it. And again, the more Sean McDonough and Kirk Herbstreit make fun of it, Hutton, the more likely it is to change.
That. Yeah, just take their helmet away, because that's what they do with concussion protocol.
Yeah, and this is
right?
this is like a 3 or 4 year old thing that's just now being talked about in game by announcers. The college football fan knows about it. I always reference 2021 Ole Miss at Tennessee. Lane Kiffin made a mockery of that game with fake injuries, a mockery of it, and he took joy in it. It was within the rules, but was it unethical? Probably. He did it over and over again. And to me, that was the start of where people started to say, okay, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they haven't done anything about it. I'm talking, when I say they, I mean college football.
But you're right. There are those that do it all the here we are again, right? But there are some cases where you just don't know in the moment. Others like this, where it's that blatant. That's what they're showing.
Right.
Yeah.
And if a guy has a broken leg, then you don't care about him having to sit out for 3 plays.
You catch a cramp or whatever it might be. You know, like there are instances like that. But the ones where the quarterback and the sideline is trying to get your attention because you're the fall guy in this, and you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden you realize it and you hit the deck. That's the obvious one.
But if you have, and again, we're talking about safety of players. Even if you have a cramp, I don't think it's too bad of a penalty to sit out 3 plays, to go hydrate and get back in. So even legitimate, if you have a legitimate injury or out extended period of time, it doesn't matter because you're out no matter what. But 3 plays, you have to go sit for 3 plays if you stop play for whatever reason. Now look, if it's late in the game and some receiver has a cramp and he has to stop play and he has to sit the next 3 plays, and that's tough.
New set of downs, whatever it might be.
I'm willing to deal with that, right? I'm willing to deal with that as a possible consequence of this rule to prevent stuff like what we saw on Saturday and what we saw in that Tennessee-Oklahoma game from happening.